In a small, sleepy town, there lived a curious choir boy named Tommy. His days were filled with the sweet sounds of hymns and the sacred music that echoed in the old church where he sang. Every Sunday, as he stood among his fellow choir members in the sunlight streaming through colorful stained glass, Tommy felt a special connection to the music. He loved how it could lift spirits and bring joy to those who listened. But beyond his love for singing, Tommy had an adventurous spirit fueled by his fascination with strange objects. He often explored the dusty corners of the church and its surrounding buildings, uncovering forgotten treasures from the past. One day, while wandering through an old storage room filled with cobwebs and ancient relics, he stumbled upon something extraordinary, a rusty Gatling gun crank. Intrigued by the unique object, Tommy imagined what kind of sounds it could create if combined with his beloved church organ. The idea thrilled him. What if he could make music that was loud and powerful? It was a wild thought for a boy whose life revolved around melodies of angels. Tommy was drawn to the crank like a moth to flame. It glimmered in the dim light, and he felt compelled to take it back to the choir loft. Little did he know that this curious decision would lead to a grand adventure. One that would change Sunday Mass forever and teach him lessons about music, chaos, and community. The church stood proudly at the heart of the town, its tall steeple reaching toward the sky like a finger pointing to heaven. Built many years ago, the stone walls were worn but sturdy, and every crack held stories of generations who had gathered within. On Sundays, the doors opened wide, welcoming townsfolk as they arrived for Mass, their faces filled with anticipation and reverence. Inside, the atmosphere was both solemn and uplifting. The air carried the scent of polished wood and flickering candles, creating a warm glow that seemed to embrace everyone. Sunlight poured through the stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the pews and illuminating the faces of worshippers. The church organ, a grand instrument with pipes that towered above the congregation, waited silently for its moment to fill the space with music. Sunday Mass was more than just a routine. It was a cherished tradition that brought the community together. Families sat side by side, sharing whispers and smiles before the service began. The priest's voice rang out clearly as he spoke of hope, kindness, and faith, guiding his flock through prayers and hymns that echoed off the stone walls. For Tommy and his fellow choir members, this was their sacred stage. They practiced diligently each week to ensure their harmonies soared above the rest. Little did anyone know that Tommy's adventurous spirit would soon bring an unexpected twist to this beloved gathering, forever changing the way they experienced this special time together. One afternoon, after choir practice had ended, Tommy felt a spark of adventure calling him. He remembered the old storage room at the back of the church, a place that had long been forgotten by most. While others were chatting and laughing in the sunlit courtyard, Tommy slipped away, eager to see what secrets lay hidden behind the dusty door. As he pushed it open, creaking hinges revealed shelves piled high with cobweb-covered boxes and ancient church decorations. The air was thick with dust, and each breath sent him into a fit of sneezing. But Tommy's excitement only grew as he ventured further inside. His fingers brushed against various relics, experiencing history with every touch. Suddenly, there it was, the rusty Gatling gun crank, half buried under a tangle of old ropes. It gleamed dully in the dim light, captivating Tommy's imagination. The crank seemed to whisper promises of adventure and sound that could shake the very foundations of the church. The thrill surged through him as he picked it up, feeling its cool metal against his palm. Tommy's heart raced at the thought of how such a strange object could transform his beloved organ into something powerful and exhilarating. He envisioned music that could echo like thunder, filling the church with an energy never felt before. With growing anticipation, he carefully tucked the crank under his arm and made his way back to the choir loft, unaware of how this choice would soon turn their peaceful Sunday Mass into a whirlwind of chaos. On Sunday morning, as the sun rose high in the sky, casting golden rays over the church, Tommy could barely contain his excitement. He clutched the rusty Gatling gun crank tightly under his arm while he stood with the other choir boys. Every moment felt electric as he imagined the thrilling sounds he could create with it during Mass. This was not just any ordinary day. It would be a day of music like no one had ever heard before. As the congregation filled the pews, Tommy's heart raced even faster. He envisioned himself at the organ, cranking away, unleashing booming notes that would echo throughout the church and beyond. What if I can make it sound like a grand battle or a storm? He thought, grinning to himself. His mind flooded with images of townsfolk gasping in awe at the unexpected symphony. When Mass began, Tommy took his place at the organ with the crank hidden beside him. As the priest readied himself to lead the service, Tommy stole glances at the crank, feeling an inner thrill of mischief. The solemn atmosphere around him felt perfect for a surprise, a touch of excitement amidst the usual hymns. Finally, as they began to sing, Tommy's fingers hovered over the organ keys. He could hardly wait to put his plan into action. With every note he played, he imagined blending it with powerful sounds from the crank, bringing a wild twist to their beloved Mass. Little did he know how quickly his fun idea would spiral into chaos and confusion. As Tommy sat at the organ, he marveled at the instrument before him. The church organ was a magnificent piece, with its towering pipes rising like sentinels above the polished wooden keys. Each pipe was able to produce a rich and powerful sound that filled the entire church with music that could move hearts and lift spirits. Tommy had watched in awe as the organist skillfully played during services, sending waves of melody cascading through the air, making everyone feel connected to something greater. Now, with the rusty Gatling gun crank nestled beside him, Tommy felt a surge of creativity and mischief. He imagined how this old device could amplify the organ's majestic sounds into something explosive and exhilarating. If he could just find a way to couple the crank with the organ, he envisioned music that would resonate like thunder, an echoing force that would leave everyone breathless. Tommy's mind raced with possibilities as he considered how he would use it during Mass. With each hymn, he planned to crank the handle in rhythm with his playing, hoping to create a harmonious blend of traditional music and unexpected bursts of sound. The thought of transforming their solemn worship into a thrilling experience excited him beyond measure. Little did Tommy know that while his vision was bold and adventurous, it also carried the potential for chaos within those sacred walls. A chaotic surprise that would turn an ordinary Sunday Mass into an unforgettable spectacle. As the congregation settled into their seats and the service began, Tommy felt a rush of adrenaline. With the priest's voice rising above the soft murmurs, he knew it was time to put his plan into action. He quickly connected the rusty Gatling gun crank to the organ, feeling both nervous and excited as he positioned himself at the keys. With a deep breath, Tommy began to play the opening hymn. As soon as he cranked the handle in rhythm with his music, something unexpected happened. The organ roared to life, but instead of a harmonious melody, a cacophony erupted from within its pipes. Thunderous sounds echoed through the church, booming notes that shook the very walls and sent tremors through the pews. Townsfolk gasped in shock, looking around in confusion at each other and then back at Tommy. The music swelled wildly, resonating like a battle cry rather than a sacred hymn. High-pitched squeals mixed with deep growls filled the air, creating a chaotic symphony that drowned out the priest's voice completely. Tommy's eyes widened in disbelief as he tried to regain control of his playing. He cranked faster, hoping for some semblance of order, but instead unleashed even more bizarre sounds, like cannon fire and roaring winds, making it feel like a storm had descended upon Sunday Mass. The congregation was no longer focused on prayer. They were caught in an unexpected whirlwind of noise and excitement, unsure whether to laugh or flee. In that moment of chaos, Tommy realized that his adventurous spirit had transformed their solemn service into an unforgettable spectacle, but not in the way he had imagined. As the thunderous sounds filled the church, the congregation reacted with a mix of surprise, fear, and confusion. Elderly parishioners looked at one another with wide eyes, their hands gripping the edges of the pews as if bracing for an unexpected storm. Mothers shielded their children, who giggled nervously at the bizarre noise that seemed to defy all expectations of Sunday Mass. Some people rose from their seats, glancing around in alarm, unsure whether they should laugh or flee. The priest, caught off guard, struggled to regain control of the service. His voice was drowned out by the chaotic symphony erupting from the organ, turning solemn prayers into a frantic scramble for understanding. A few brave souls began to clap along with Tommy's frenzied playing, trying to find joy in the unexpected chaos. Others exchanged bewildered looks, while some even covered their ears against the booming notes that echoed like cannon fire through the church halls. Laughter mingled with gasps as townsfolk tried to make sense of what was happening. It felt like a scene from a wild adventure rather than a peaceful gathering. In this whirlwind of sound and emotion, Tommy's heart raced, not just from excitement but also from a twinge of fear. He glanced at the congregation and saw faces filled with wonder and disbelief. What had started as a playful idea had turned into an unpredictable spectacle that would be talked about for years to come. A moment that transformed their ordinary Sunday into an extraordinary memory. As the chaotic sounds echoed throughout the church, Tommy's initial thrill began to fade, replaced by a sinking feeling in his stomach. He looked around at the bewildered faces of the congregation, some laughing and others clearly frightened. The joyful chaos he had envisioned had morphed into something he hadn't anticipated. In that moment, he realized that his actions had consequences far beyond his playful intentions. Tommy felt a wave of guilt sweep over him as he watched the priest struggling to regain control, his voice lost amidst the booming noise. This was a place meant for worship and reflection, not for an unexpected performance that sent everyone into disarray. He understood that while it was fun to explore and experiment with new ideas, he had crossed a line by not considering how his choices would affect others. In the midst of the uproar, Tommy's heart pounded not just from excitement, but from a newfound sense of responsibility. He realized that being adventurous does not mean disregarding the feelings and traditions of those around him. With each thunderous sound that filled the air, he resolved to take responsibility for his actions and make amends once the chaos settled. As the organ continued to roar, Tommy envisioned a way to turn this moment into something positive. He imagined explaining himself to the congregation, sharing his inspiration behind the crank, and inviting them to join him in creating music together, this time with intention and understanding. The lesson was clear. Creativity should accompany care, especially in a sacred space. As the chaotic sounds gradually faded, the congregation began to settle, their initial shock transforming into a sense of curiosity. The priest, still trying to regain composure, took a deep breath and stepped forward, his expression softening as he looked at Tommy. The young choirboy stood at the organ, his heart heavy with guilt, but also hopeful for forgiveness. "Dear friends," the priest called out, his voice steady amidst the lingering noise. "Sometimes we find ourselves in unexpected moments, where things do not go as planned. What happened today was certainly surprising, but it also reminds us of the joy and creativity that can emerge from our adventures." The townsfolk listened closely, their expressions shifting from confusion to understanding. They could see Tommy's sincerity and the remorse in his eyes. One by one, the congregation began to smile, recognizing that while the moment had turned chaotic, it had also brought them together in laughter and surprise. With a calm demeanor, the priest continued, "Let us all take this experience as a lesson in kindness and forgiveness." Tommy did not mean to disrupt our service. He simply sought to bring joy through music. Feeling encouraged, Tommy spoke up, "I'm really sorry for the chaos. I just wanted to create something special." The priest nodded, and with that simple gesture of forgiveness, the congregation erupted into applause. The atmosphere lightened as everyone joined in, not just forgiving Tommy but celebrating creativity and community. They were ready to turn the page on this unusual Sunday and embrace the spirit of togetherness that had emerged from the unexpected spectacle. In the days that followed the chaotic Sunday service, the atmosphere in the town felt different. Tommy noticed how the incident had sparked conversations and laughter among families as they recalled the unexpected turn of events. What began as an embarrassing moment transformed into a cherished memory that brought everyone closer together. The church became a space not just for worship, but for connection and shared stories. Tommy found himself reflecting deeply on what he had learned. He realized that music was not merely about creating beautiful sounds. It was also about the emotions it stirred within people. The joy of creativity needed to be balanced with respect for those around him and the traditions they held dear. He understood that being adventurous could lead to wonderful discoveries, but it also came with responsibility. The congregation had shown him forgiveness and kindness, teaching him that mistakes could be opportunities for growth and understanding. Inspired by their acceptance, Tommy approached the priest and proposed starting a weekly music session where anyone could join in, encouraging collaboration among all ages. This idea blossomed into a new tradition that combined creativity with community spirit. Together, they crafted harmonies filled with laughter and joy, celebrating their unity through music. Tommy had turned his moment of chaos into a lesson in humility and connection, one that would echo in their hearts long after the last note faded away. The incident had not only changed Sunday Mass, it had strengthened the bonds of friendship and understanding within their cherished community.